Major democracies in Canada today, kicking off the G7 foreign ministers meeting where political leaders come together. They discuss the world, global economic, political, and security policy and issues. So this year's meeting really comes at a time of rising tensions, especially between the U.S. and its allies, because of an overall shift in foreign policy since President Trump took office. Topics on the table include tariffs and the Russia-Ukraine war, and of course, the war between Israel and Hamas. Turning now to Global News national reporter Tariffs Isri. Nice to have you with us on CBS 24/7. So, trade war ramping up, and all of those hot spots on the map. What kind of environment is Marco Rubio walking into in these meetings?
I mean, this is a very tense time in the world, but it's also a particularly tense and I would say unprecedented time for Canada-U.S. relations. So U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, on his way to this summit, he said taking over Canada is not on the agenda. That being said, U.S. President Donald Trump's threats of making Canada the 51st state are looming very large here. All of the foreign ministers have been asked about that threat. Italy's foreign minister said Canada will always be Canada, while Germany's representative here was a little more muted in her response. She said that calmer heads need to prevail at the G7. But afterwards, she had tweeted a photo of her and the European Union representative wearing red and white and saying, "Canada, we stand with you." So while some of the ministers are being a little more forthcoming in their shows of solidarity with Canada, others perhaps are focusing on their conversations behind the scenes. But yeah, Canadians are quite angry about those threats to make Canada the 51st state. And right now, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he hasn't actually taken questions from the media at the summit. We've tried to ask him multiple times if he thinks it's appropriate for a G7 member to threaten the sovereignty of another G7 member.
Well, Canada's retaliatory tariffs went into effect today. More than, $20 billion worth of goods and services. Any chance that Rubio and Canadian leaders can smooth that part out during this meeting?
Yeah, so it's about $30 billion Canadian, and this is in response to the 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. So Canadian officials said they did not want to take this step, but that they had no choice. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister said on her way here that she will be raising the tariff issue at every possible opportunity. She had a bilateral meeting with Marco Rubio this morning, and that, most likely came up. Whether there'll be any progress on that remains to be seen. Many of these decisions rest with one person, and that is U.S. President Donald Trump. But it's not just Canada that's quite frustrated and also affected by these tariffs. They have apply to every single country on earth, and that would include the members here, who have said that in a trade war, everyone loses. The difference, though, with tariffs on Canada is that the Canadian and American economies are so intertwined, and officials on both sides of the border say repeatedly that this will only lead to job losses for Canadians and also Americans.
Well, we know that the trade war is top of mind for so many in those very important rooms, but what other priorities are you seeing at these meetings?
So definitely the war in Ukraine, whether the ceasefire deal will hold. We've already heard from Russia saying that they get nothing out of this deal. So, whether there will be a joint communique coming from this G7 summit remains to be seen. Also, the crisis in Gaza, the conflict in Haiti. There is a lot internationally to tackle, but there are big questions about whether the G7 members themselves are all on the same page, given this trade war, given the annexation threats, and also, the previous comments U.S. President Donald Trump has made about Russia and Putin.
Finally, Tariffs, do me a favor. For all journalism students watching, hold up that old-style reporter notepad for our viewers to see. I'm an old, hard news reporter. Anybody who takes notes on one of those pads by hand is my people. Nice to have you with us. I hope to have you back here on CBS News 24/7. Go ahead. It's streaming.
Would love to be back. I can't trust a phone. It could die. Sure, I was going to say I can't trust my phone. It might die. I might get a text. So the old trusty notepad has never failed me.
nor will it ever. You keep taking those notes and blazing a trail to Ria. Nice to have you with us.